It's really a case of Meghan Markle saying to Prince Harry, please don't go, don't leave. Exactly. Let me explain. Only Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, as you know, there's nothing I like more, should I say, than a cup of tea and a nice slice of cake. It's that moment, isn't it, in the day where you sit down and think, we all shouldn't, but we do, don't we? Now, if you still have a piece of cake from 1947, who would have that, you know? Not me. But seriously, a piece of cake from the royal wedding of Princess Elizabeth and, of course, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip at the time. Well, that's now gone up for auction for £400. Not only that, it's in its original box and it's got an original note too, but apparently the auctioneer has said it's not actually edible. No, really? Can you imagine having that piece of cake, looking at it and think, looks gorgeous, and you've got nothing in one night and you think, oh well, give it a bash. Put a bit of cream on it, that'll do. Maybe a bit of custard, who knows. As ever, as I often say, it could just be me. I wouldn't trust myself, would you? £400 or not, you know? But what a lovely thing that somebody's actually kept. It was put together, of course, by the Queen's chief caterer at the time, and it was given to him, so I think it's come through as a family heirloom and stuff like that. But a lovely story nonetheless. I'll let you know if it goes for anything more than 400, but even that, very expensive slice of cake, isn't it? Well, maybe not if you're going to Harrods or Claridge's or somewhere like that. Back as ever though to your Breaking Ball story of the day. Interesting to note on this particular story now, as we've now known, and which I told you before right at the beginning. Do you remember these stories about how the Queen was popping in and out of Frogmore Cottage all the time, zipping over on a buggy, that sort of stuff, you know, as Harry and Meghan returned back to the fold. And then, you know, previously to that, we had reporters claiming that they were FaceTiming, and Catherine and William were FaceTiming Harry and Meghan, swapping pictures, sending clothes. Now, as I predicted, and as I told you first here on the show, that simply was never the case. They were never that close. Things were never going in that direction. What's interesting to note, though, and what I find particularly fascinating, is this particular topic which has just come up. And this already centres upon the fact of that Her Majesty the Queen did come along and see Harry and Meghan for around about 12 minutes, in fact. It was a very sort of formal, hello, how are you, thank you for coming. You know, there were no great shakes there about we've missed you and all that sort of stuff. Really, you know, the Queen's a lovely woman, but she's very busy, particularly over that period. And also, you know, it's very fractious, isn't it? When you meet someone after a while who've done those things that they've done, you're kind of like, oh darn, this is going to pan out not very well, apparently. But according to my good source, really, very quickly after that meeting, Prince Harry wanted to pack up and go. That was it. As far as he was concerned, they were done after the Thanksgiving service because they weren't required anymore. Now, apparently, Meghan Markle, to her credit, said, look, I think we should stay for the whole of the Jubilee. You never know. Things could work out, could pan out. Now, the cynic in me could say, of course, that Meghan would have realised that this wouldn't play particularly well on her side. People would say that she'd forced him back and they'd left in a huff. But as I've often said here on the show, it must be quite difficult being alongside someone like Prince Harry, because he's been used to his own way in the world for so long. And if he can't get his own way, as we've seen before with the endless litigations and stuff like that, simply gets in a red hot huff and decides he wants out. Now, whichever way you look at it, that puts Meghan in a very difficult position moving forward, because whatever he says clearly goes. And so for her and said children, yes, allegedly, they, you know, had to get on a plane at Farnborough and go back to California, because Prince Harry felt, well, what's the point of being around here? Nobody wants to meet us, nobody wants to see us, and we don't have a starring role in this pageant. So as far as he was concerned, he'd come along, he'd celebrated, and he'd been very gracious, kept out the limelight, and then that was it. Moving forward, though, for Meghan, this could be a life of really what Harry wants, Harry gets, particularly where it concerns his family and building that bigger brand. A lot of people think that Meghan Markle wears the trousers. Well, I'm sure she does in certain elements. But having met Prince Harry myself and seen exactly how the royal machine operates up close, it's very difficult for these people to forget that perhaps they're now suddenly not the starring role, as is the case of Prince Harry. As ever, when I know more, you'll know more. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.